In the heart of Abuja's exclusive Maitama district, nestled between embassies and estates, stood a mansion that seemed plucked from a royal dream. This was the home of the Obiajulu family. Chigozie, the patriarch and owner of Julu Chemicals, his elegant wife Rita, and their 3 children, Ikenna, Onyebuchi, and Adamma. Their lives were the very definition of luxury. Every morning, uniformed drivers chauffeured the children to elite international schools in blacked-out SUVs. Their birthdays were citywide events, covered in lifestyle magazines. At home, seasoned chefs prepared meals from across the globe, and there was never a moment when laughter or music wasn't echoing through the house. Yet, despite their wealth, the Obiajulus were known not for their riches, but for their generosity. Chigozie, who had risen from poverty, made sure to give back. Every month, he donated to orphanages, funded scholarships, and quietly paid the medical bills of complete strangers. He swore his children would know comfort, but also kindness, and that wealth without humility was meaningless. Chigozie and Rita had built not just a family, but a legacy of love. Their children were known for their good manners, humility, and intelligence. Ikenna, at 14, was a quiet thinker and natural leader. Buchi, the ever-curious 11-year-old, had a love for science and could take apart electronics just to rebuild them. Adamma, their 8-year-old princess, was full of laughter and had a talent for drawing. They attended the prestigious Eden Heights Academy, where they stood out, not just for their wealth, but for their grace. Teachers adored them, classmates envied them, and their parents never missed a school event. Friends flocked to them, eager to be associated with the Obiajulu kids. Life was a beautiful melody, and every note played in harmony. But fate, as it often does, held a cruel twist in his silent hands. Behind the gates of that mansion, no one imagined how quickly their lives would descend into darkness. The tragedy came like a thief in the night. Chigozie had a critical business meeting in Port Harcourt and decided to take his wife along for a rare getaway. The children, as usual, hugged their parents goodbye, unaware it would be the last time. Hours later, the news broke. A private plane had crashed in a remote part of the Niger Delta. No survivors. Television flashed their names, their pictures, and with it, the vibrant world of the Obiajulu children collapsed. What followed was not grief alone, but a spiral into betrayal. The mansion that once smelled of lavender and pepper soup was now filled with whispers, strange relatives, and silence. The servants disappeared overnight. Drivers took the cars and never returned, and the children sat in their once lively dining room, waiting for someone to tell them what came next. No one did. Auntie Uzo arrived in a flurry of fake tears and perfume. She had always taken advantage of her brother's generosity, demanding money for emergencies that often turned out to be handbags and holidays. Now she moved into the mansion with her husband and children, as though it were her birthright. Her demeanor changed immediately. No more sweet auntie. She began locking the fridge, backing others, and whispering with her husband behind closed doors. The banks came next. They claimed Chigozie had taken a significant loan shortly before his death to expand Julu Chemicals. Without him, the repayments halted. The house, the cars, the accounts ceased. The children watched their world vanish piece by piece. Their school sent a notice. Tuition had not been paid. Eden Heights expelled them. Friends who once begged for play dates now avoided eye contact. Ikenna, young as he was, saw the cracks before they widened. He noticed how Auntie Uzo would smile tightly in public, then serve them spoiled food in private. Her own children laughed at them, called them orphans, stole Adamma's toys, and shared their clothes amongst themselves. Ikenna tried to reach out to some of their parents' friends, Uncle this, Auntie that, but no one returned his calls. One woman even told him bluntly, "We can't help you. Your father is gone." He went to their church, hoping for sanctuary. The pastor, once a regular visitor to their home for blessings, now claimed his hands were tied. The world had turned its back. One evening, he overheard his aunt and uncle whispering about something sinister, a solution to the children. "If we do the ritual, we will rise again," the uncle said. The words chilled Ikenna to his marrow. That night, he did not sleep. He waited until the house was silent. Then he gently woke Buchi and Adamma. "We have to go," he whispered. Adamma rubbed her eyes, confused. "To where?" she asked. "Anywhere but here," he said, carrying a tiny bag of clothes and the little money he had hidden over time. The siblings fled. They walked for hours, hiding in alleys and behind kiosks. By dawn, they found themselves near an abandoned building site at the edge of Nyanya. It was unsafe, but it was freedom. They curled up in a corner, cold and frightened. Ikenna cried silently as his siblings slept. At 14, he had become their father, mother, protector and provider. He didn't know how they would survive, but he knew they would not die in that wicked house. Life on the streets was cruel. Ikenna began selling pure water in traffic, dodging abusive drivers and corrupt task forces. Buchi sometimes cleaned tables at a roadside restaurant, while Adamma stayed hidden in their shelter. Hunger became a regular companion. They bathed in streams, wore the same clothes for weeks, and relied on the kindness of strangers for meals. But the streets had their own cruelty. One night, Adamma fell terribly ill. She had been feverish for days, but now she was unconscious. Panicked, Ikenna ran through the streets, crying for help. Most people ignored him. "Another street rat," they muttered. But one woman stopped, a nurse on her way home. She took Adamma to a clinic and paid for her treatments. "God will bless your parents," she told Ikenna. He looked away, ashamed to tell her they were gone. During this time, Ikenna visited places where he hoped someone would recognize him. He stood outside their old school gates. Some of his former classmates saw him and laughed. "Is that Ikenna? The one who used to come in a Range Rover?" one jeered. He walked away with his head low. Even some of the people who had eaten at their dining table once ignored his cries for help. One man, a former business partner of his father, crossed the street to avoid him. The betrayal burned. It seemed like their parents' death had erased every trace of loyalty or love they had ever known. But Ikenna held on. He remembered his father's words, "Never stop doing good, even when the world turns its back." Far away in London, Barrister Clement Ibe had just returned to strength after a long battle with illness. He had been Chigozie's lawyer and dearest friend for decades. When he returned to Nigeria and heard about the Obiajulu's death, he was devastated. But what shocked him more was the disappearance of the children. He rushed to Maitama only to be told lies by Auntie Uzo, that the children had run away, that they had looked for them but failed. She even claimed to have filed a missing persons report. Clement wasn't fooled. He started searching on his own, using private investigators, combing through hospitals, orphanages, slums. For 2 years, he never stopped. Then, one fateful afternoon, Clement stepped out of a shop in Wuse and saw a boy selling water by the roadside. Something about him, the eyes, the posture, struck him. "Ikenna?" he called. The boy turned, startled. Tears welled in the lawyer's eyes as he rushed to him. "It's me, Clement, your father's friend." Ikenna dropped the tray and collapsed into the man's arms, sobbing. Clement took him and his siblings home, fed them, and listened as they narrated all they had endured. He wept openly, especially when Ikenna told him about the ritual plot. "Your father trusted me with your future," he said, holding their hands, "and I failed you, but never again." Clement immediately set to work. He contacted trusted friends, colleagues, and philanthropists who had once admired Chigoze's integrity and generosity. Slowly, a network formed, a safety net designed to catch Obiajulu children before they fell further. He enrolled Ikenna, Buchi, and Adamma into a well-regarded boarding school far from the bitterness of Maitama, where no one would know their story. The children, initially hesitant and scarred by years of abandonment, began to find hope in the routine of classes and the warmth of compassionate teachers. Ikenna threw himself into his studies, determined to honor his father's legacy. Buchi's curiosity blossomed under the guidance of science tutors, while Adamma's art teacher encouraged her to express the pain and beauty she carried inside through colors and shapes. For the first time since their parents' death, they smiled without fear. But healing was not immediate. At school, the children faced whispers and stares when their story leaked. Some students mocked them for their fall from grace, calling them orphaned rich kids, or worse. Yet, amidst the cruelty, friendships slowly formed, authentic ones. A girl named Ifeoma befriended Adamma after admiring a drawing she made during art class. She promised to be a sister in a world that had taken their real family away. Ikenna found a mentor in Mr. Okoro, a physics teacher who saw the boy's potential beyond the shadow of his past. Buchi teamed up with a boy named Emeka in science club, both bonding over late-night experiments and dreams of inventing something great. These friendships became lifelines, teaching the Obiajulu children that family could be chosen, not just born. Meanwhile, Clement worked tirelessly to unravel Auntie Uzo's web of lies. Legal battles ensued as he challenged her attempts to claim the Obiajulu estate. The court hearings were long and painful, reopening wounds the children thought had begun to heal. Yet, with every judgment in their favor, a new piece of justice was carved out of the darkness. Clement's advocacy also exposed some of the cruel relatives and friends who had turned their backs when the Obiajulus needed them most. Some were publicly shamed, others quietly faded away. Slowly, the truth spread that the Obiajulu children were not abandoned because of failure or shame, but because of greed and cruelty. This revelation sparked a renewed respect for the family's memory in Abuja's elite circles. Life, however, was teaching the children more than just justice. It was teaching resilience and faith in humanity. One chilly afternoon, as the siblings walked home from school, a local market vendor recognized Ikenna. Instead of mockery, she smiled warmly and handed them a small bag of oranges. "Your parents helped me when I was struggling," she said. "Now it's our turn to help you." Small acts like this began to restore their belief that kindness could survive even in the darkest storms. Adamma's laughter, once scarce, now echoed more freely. Buchi's eyes sparkled with the promise of tomorrow. Ikenna's quiet strength steadied their steps. They were no longer just victims of tragedy. They were survivors, writing a new chapter with courage and grace. School became a sanctuary where the siblings learned more than academics. They discovered the power of community and the importance of holding on to values their parents had instilled. Ikenna often recalled his father's favorite saying, "Wealth is a tool, not a trophy. Use it to build, not to break." With this in mind, he organized small fundraisers with friends, raising money to support orphans and street children in their area. Buchi volunteered at science outreach programs, inspiring young kids to dream beyond their circumstances. Adamma, who had once been too shy to show her art, began exhibiting her work at local galleries, donating the proceeds to charity. Their parents' generosity had lived on through them, even when their names were whispered with pity or scorn. One evening, as they gathered around a modest dinner table in their new home, Clement shared stories of Chigoze and Rita, their struggles, dreams, and unwavering faith in goodness. Tears flowed freely as the children realized that their parents' spirits were alive in the strength and kindness they now embodied. They never wanted us to be broken, Ikenna said softly. They wanted us to rise. In that moment, the bitterness of the past melted, replaced by a fierce determination to honor the legacy of love that had bettered them. The road ahead was still long, but the Obiajulu children knew they would walk it together, unshaken. Years passed, and the siblings blossomed into remarkable young adults. Ikenna became a scholarship student at a prestigious university, studying business ethics with the hope of rebuilding Julu chemicals as a force for good. Buchi earned recognition for his scientific innovations, securing grants to develop sustainable technologies for rural communities. Adamma's art touched hearts across Nigeria and beyond, her exhibitions raising awareness about child welfare and resilience. The siblings remained close-knit, their bond forged in fire and tempered with love. Though the pain of loss never fully faded, it became a wellspring of strength and inspiration. The community around them, once skeptical, now celebrated the Obiajulu children as symbols of hope and redemption. Invitations to speak at schools and events poured in. They shared their story, not for sympathy, but to remind others that no matter how low life may push you, dignity and kindness can lift you back up. Ikenna often spoke of the importance of integrity. Buchi championed education and innovation, and Adamma used her art to heal wounds that words could not reach. Their journey became a testament to the human spirit's power to transcend pain and injustice. On the 10th anniversary of their parents' passing, the siblings organized a charity gala attended by dignitaries, old friends, and those who once doubted them. The event raised substantial funds for orphans and widows in Abuja, shining a spotlight on causes dear to their parents' hearts. As speeches filled the grand hall, the Obiajulu children stood side by side, proud and unbound. They had survived the cruelty of abandonment, the sting of betrayal, and the harshness of poverty. But more importantly, they had proven that goodness, when rooted deep in love and resilience, could never be extinguished. Moral of the story. The story of the Obiajulu children is one of loss and pain, yes, but also of hope and renewal. Their journey taught them, and those who witnessed it, that life is unpredictable, often cruel, but never without meaning. What seemed like a terrible ending was only the beginning of a greater story. They had learned that no matter how deep the darkness, light can always break through. In the end, their parents' generosity and love were seeds planted in fertile soil, destined to grow into a legacy that no hardship could erase. The Obiajulu children rose from the ashes, their hearts forever carrying the lesson that in life, nothing is certain, but everything happens for a reason. And sometimes, the greatest joy comes from the most unexpected places. Join me for more fascinating stories on African Flaver Folktales. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment if you feel a connection to this story.